Welcome to Bari Banter, where we talk everything bariatric surgery with the people that know it best, the patients. I'm Shannon, and I'm here with my co-hostess with the mostest,
Lita. So sit back, relax, and remember, sip, sip, sip.
Well, welcome back to another episode of Bari Banter, episode 82, according to Alita's little shiny thing that she has over there. Firstly, start the episode by thanking our Patreons. Our premium member, Barb. Opti member is Alicia. My R&Y Adventure. I'm a Bari member, Matt's WL Journey. Brett, VSG Brett. Wally, he's a new one. Finding Wally. Finally finding Wally. And Renee. I'm not going to do the handles in future because that was a lot. But we want to say thank you because, guys, you guys are awesome. We love it. We really appreciate it. And speaking of like something I miss and like because the Patreon side of things kind of reminds me of it, meetups. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it today. I'm like, I feel bad for the people who kind of got sleeved over the last 2 years. Because like last 2 years, we really haven't had meetups. Like we haven't had like weight loss meetups.
There was a meetup sort of, I think, at the end of last year, but they were very small and very like quickly organised. So unless you were in the know, you kind of didn't really know, and they weren't the sort of event that you were going to go to and just be like, "Hey guys, I was done 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
how's it going?"
You know, because like if anyone who's like new to the whole world, we used to do like these sick meetups. Like they were like 50, 100, sometimes 150 people, all weight loss. And it was just like epic. It was like
Fun.
The most accepting party you've ever been to.
But we all still got like social anxiety leading into it.
Oh yeah, man, we really did. But how with it, I feel, I don't know. That's why like Alita and I end up hosting a couple of them towards the end because we found they were very beneficial to kind of like, you know, celebrating your achievements and kind of putting yourself out there in a different way. And kind of getting to feel something you haven't felt before, which was for me was a big thing. Like being able to like feel like so accepted and like, you know, we talked about it last week in the podcast. But I used to go to like nightclubs and stuff, and like you never felt like you were part of the club. Where like at these weight loss meetups, you always felt like so accepted and like, yeah, I don't know. It was just a thought I had today. Something
else that I felt really accepted in this week was the CrossFit Open. That was yeah. I never thought that I would actually A, be doing CrossFit, B, be doing a competition, and also just like you were there for part of it. Like you felt what the gym felt like when we were all there.
Yeah, well, like, I felt like it was like just yesterday that you were sitting there being like, oh, I'm going to do this one day. It's going to be sick.
No, I think I was like, I'm not going to do this one day.
No, you said you were, but you were kind of in rookies at the time. And like, so that's why it made me so impressed to watch you there. And like, I was honestly, because I came and watched your little heat, because I know like you all do like little heats over the day. And I was so just focused on you. And like I wasn't even watching anyone else in your heat.
Yeah, damn straight you should be.
Because I was just like, I was in awe of just like, wow, like you really have put your head to this. Because I know you left me in the bed most mornings and gone off to do your thing. Don't feel bad about it. But you know, watching you do it, I was like, wow, she's worked really hard for this. And I was like really proud of you. So,
well, I was super proud of myself because I didn't think that I'd get through that last workout.
FYI, I'm a little bit slow today. Like my brain is like about 3 seconds behind my brain. It's because I kind of stayed up to like 1 o'clock this morning editing the podcast we put out this morning because we released it earlier to our Patreons and it's kind of made it a little bit harder. So I like stayed up to like midnight and then I released it and then realized there was no audio. Yeah, sounds like something I would do.
And it is almost 8 o'clock at night here. But our guest...
No, this episode with our amazing guest we're about to introduce will be put out earlier because I'm going to be efficient this week. That's going to be my segue.
Bets on that Shannon stays up until 1 o'clock on Sunday night. Anyway,
our guest, I'm excited to sit down with this one because she's someone, we were just having this conversation. Yeah. I feel like I've known her my whole life, but it's only been 3.5 years. So I'm excited to sit down and have a chat with her. And I'm surprised it's taken us this long to get on because I find her a really epic human.
She was very reluctant to come on as well. So I had to sort of sweet talk her a little bit.
We just bribed her. So we know secrets about you. Come on. All right. No.
Today's guest was sleeved back in November 2018 with a start weight of 119.3 kilos. Like a lot of us, she had the fear of failing after surgery, but 3 years down the track, she's lost over 50 kilos and has proved that through hard work and determination that she's definitely not a failure and indeed a success. Here to talk to us about her journey, please welcome the wonderful Zoe. Hey, lovely.
Hello, guys. How are you?
Good. I didn't know you had to be this way to come on. I just learnt that fact. Now I feel bad. We got you quite right.
No.
She didn't need to be persuaded. It was just kind of like, oh, are you sure? And I was like, yes, I am.
Okay. Well, I'm happy
just
you're
that,
here.
talking on the spot kind of thing.
Yeah. No, it is. It's something you have to get used to. I still haven't got used to it, and I've done it like every week for like 81 weeks. So this week...
FYI, before you start...
No, you're right.
Your camera, I can't even see you guys. Your camera is facing the table.
That's good. That's... do you know if
perfect.
Okay, yeah, I'll lift it up a little bit. There you go. How's that go?
Yay!
All right, sorry. The table's beautiful, so I just thought you wanted to look at that. We're trying something new this week because like we want people to feel comfortable. So we want to ask a question that makes you just like, settle into your seat and feel comfortable about the situation. Leaders put one on the form, but I have a second one. So I'm kind of like, guys, if you listen to this podcast, I want to hear whose icebreaker is better. So leaders, boring, is describe yourself in 3 words.
Oh gosh! Now, what did I put on that form? No, I like to think of myself as a little bit of a realist. I'm very pragmatic. I like facts over fiction, and I like to think I'm very loyal. I'm always sort of, I guess, trying to think of how what I do impacts other people and so on. So,
okay.
Well, the reason why I wanted to ask that, because you said pragmatic on your form, and I actually had to Google what pragmatic meant. So I was like, I'm going to throw Shannon under the bus here and hope that you say the word pragmatic, and then be like, Shannon, what does pragmatic mean? But we've already had this conversation.
No, it's her word. I want her to tell us what it is. I'm not going to...
I guess it's basically followed by what I said second, very logical in my approach to things. I don't try to carry a lot of emotion with decisions that are being made or with what's happening around me.
Calculated.
And I do just try and live my own little life whilst trying to be considerate of everyone else.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I would have said it was as well.
Yeah. Did you say problematic? That there was problems?
I don't remember that.
Can be problematic.
But that was quite a boring one. We won't touch on that. But my question is, what do you reckon there is more in the world? Wheels?
It's like a thing at the moment. Wheels or...
wheels or doors. Have you heard it as well? I heard it and I was like...
I have seen it. I've seen it do its rounds. I would say wheels.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like most... Yeah, maybe wheels, because I feel like most doors have wheels. Anyway, probably a really bad question. I was entertained by that all day today at work. I was like really getting in depth with what has wheels and what has doors, and I was surprised how many wheels and doors there are. I'm in the wrong industry.
I reckon there's about 8 times the amount of wheels in my house than there would be doors.
Wow, okay.
Prove it.
Guys, this is no longer called Bari Banter. This is called Wheels and Doors.
That's it. IKEA 101.
Name the things you can see in your room with wheels and doors.
So we'll go into the bariatric. I don't know if that worked. Guys, let us know if that worked. I feel like the icebreaker was maybe a more awkward
question.
So leading into bariatric surgery, something we quite talk about a lot is like eating disorders and different things like that. Like, leading into surgery and after surgery, it's something we definitely have to deal with as like people. Before surgery, can you precisely look back at your pre-bariatric journey and kind of, do you feel like there was an eating disorder there for you?
I think you probably couldn't have told me that in the beginning, but now hindsight, the wonderful thing that she is, I would say that I did have an element of food addiction, not necessarily emotional eating. I probably did binge eat in a sense where I would have, large amounts of things without even really thinking about it. And I would have that frequently. And I always tried to convince myself, like I even remember back to that first, dietitian appointment when you feel like, oh geez, you're like fully under the radar. And I feel like I was trying to convince them that I was eating healthy, but that it was just bigger portions of everything, which realistically there was a lot more going on there. And I was always thinking about food, but in like a really negative way. And not so much an eating disorder, but I spoke about it recently on my Instagram account about how, you used to go days where you would starve yourself or you would hit 600 calories a day and you'd water load and you'd do all this stuff and you'd give yourself a little pat on the back at the end of it and you'd be like, oh, well done for like starving yourself for a week. All because you binged the day before. So there was definitely this element of like bad food addiction and bad food behaviours that I've learned a lot more about coming out of them.
It's funny that you say about your dietitian appointment prior to surgery, because I was actually working with a dietitian leading into my surgery, like almost as like the last little like hurrah before I had surgery. And like I'd be like, oh no, I just eat like a salad that's big enough for like a whole family. And like, oh, you know, in my lunch break I'll go and have a Freddo frog. Yeah, no, Alita, that Freddo frog was like a Freddo frog, a caramel koala. You'd then also on the weekend go eat an entire bag worth of like lollies, and like it was kind of like I kind of told her a little bit but not everything, so it's kind of like again like disassociating from how like bad we actually were being, I guess, because
I mean most more sorry you go.
I was just, like you said before though, like if you had have asked me at the time, I wouldn't have said that I had an eating disorder, because in my mind, eating disorders were like anorexia and bulimia and those sorts of things.
Extreme versions of like, eating disorders,
And I didn't even know about like binge eating disorder. Like, and I think I don't know if I made up, like I'm sure I didn't make it up, but like I had like closet eating. So like I've said it so many times before that I'd go down to the shops and I'd spend my pocket money and I'd just scoff my face and then go home because nobody else saw me do it. So it's kind of like if you had have asked me then, I didn't have any issues with food. But like coming out the other side, you kind of realize that, we had such bad relationships and we were just almost in denial about it, I guess.
Because you're like similar time out to us. Have you found like obviously those patterns of behavior when it comes to food don't just disappear? It's not something that just goes like see you later. Have you noticed like certain habits returning, or like if you like little patterns that have formed again or anything like that?
Yeah, I've had certain behaviours come back, which is scary. You know, like people say, oh, that's just human. And you think, well, when you come from like morbid obesity for your entire life, like it's really scary to be looking at that creeping back in. I think one thing that I think back on is like when I first got my license, for example, fast food was starting to become a really big thing. You know, you think about our parents, they didn't have these drive-through takeaways where they could go and just get whatever they want whenever they wanted it. Yet when I was 18 and was driving, I had such access to that so quickly. So I feel like that contributed to the fluctuation of my weight. Like I was never, just an average weight person. I was always overweight, but I became morbidly obese as I grew into an adult. And I know now, like, you know, I've got 2 young kids. They want Happy Meals. They want all that sort of thing. And I think, okay, well, we can still do that as a family. And I want to show my kids that they can do that and have control over it rather than, you know, just always wanting for it. So when I go to places like McDonald's and Hungry Jack's and things like that, you know, I'm sort of triggered in a sense because I contribute a lot of that to my massive weight gain. But the fact that I can sit there and order like a bunless burger or something like that shows to me that my behaviour has changed. And I guess that's always been my message, is that if you can work really hard in the beginning to try and change that behaviour, then that helps you now in maintenance, because maintenance is super tough.
Yeah, no, it is.
And it's boring too.
Though. Can I just say, when you said that before, you kind of went, about, fast food or drive-thrus are just becoming a thing, you know, and I'm like, how old are you? Like, you were like, I used to ride there on my dinosaur and like grab a cheese. But no, you're 100% right, because like fast food does play a huge part, because the faster you get food, it's like it almost passes through without your memory even acknowledging that it happened. Like, so if you can eat something or get something fast enough and not put enough effort into it, especially back then, it almost didn't even process that it went through. Like, you just missed the scanner altogether.
But also, we're like, for us, I don't know, because we don't live in a big city or anything like that, we had legit like 1 or 2 fast food joints in the entire town, like where I came from. So it was kind of like...
You come from Noosa.
We had one McDonald's.
Sorry, I just had to throw it in there.
No, well, I can totally relate to that. I grew up in regional Western Australia, and most of the places that I lived didn't even have fast food. So maybe that is why my perception is that it was coming in, because I moved to Perth, the capital city of Western Australia, when I was in high school, and then I finished year 12 here. And that's when, like, you know, fast food restaurants were popping up left, right and centre. But yeah, I remember when the first McDonald's got built in Kalgoorlie, and it was like this massive deal for the community. So yeah, maybe it was my lack of exposure to it growing up.
First McDonald's.
Yeah, there's probably 20 there now.
Yeah, literally one on every corner.
Well, I was going to say, because I lived in Noosa and we had one.
There's caviar bars everywhere, but like there's only one McDonald's.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can try to get caviar.
But then I shut up, guys. But then I moved to Brisbane, and there was like legit one on every single corner. So like it was, that's what I'm saying. It was like a novelty. So like when I went down to Brisbane, it was kind of like, oh, not only am I not living with my parents anymore, I'm also able to buy my own food. And it just so happens that where I live in Brisbane, I legit live on top of a McDonald's. So it was very convenient, like, and kebab stores, and it was more convenient and novelty than anything else. Shannon's giving me a weird look.
That's fine. I'm from North Star. Do you remember like the time when you like, obviously, sorry, I had to throw that in there. It's a great meme. But do you remember like the time when, you know, you decided bariatric surgery is for you? Obviously, you know what led up to it and how you got there, but like, you know, do you remember the point where you went, okay, yeah, bariatric surgery is for me?
Yeah, so this story, it sticks with me a little bit because my mum actually got bariatric surgery before it was sort of a thing that people did, you know, and it was still quite taboo. And my reaction to her getting this sort of surgery was very strong and very negative. And it probably came from an area of not just jealousy, but just the unknown of what bariatric surgery really was about. And so I guess my reaction and response to her, you know, that then when I decided to do the same thing, it made me take a really good look at why I was doing it. And yeah, I remember vividly like sitting not on that exact lounge behind you, but behind me, but in that space.
Behind me.
And I had 2 kids, and my husband was on night shift, and there was like washing in the washing machine, the dishwasher needed unstacking, the house was just, you know, let everything go. And I was watching something on television that meant nothing to me, and I just had no motivation to do anything. And I sort of knew at that point that my weight was really killing any motivational aspects that I had. Not only could I not be bothered, but it was exhausting to continue living. And I'd let everything go. So I knew I had to do something.
Yeah. Like, why do you feel like you got to that point? Like, you know, you don't just become unmotivated. Was there certain things in your life that you kind of look back at as like contributors towards that?
I can't think of like anything in particular, but just, you know, like I said, I was always an overweight person. And then I'm not going to blame my dear husband, but obviously when I met him and I settled into a life with him, you know, I'd given up things like netball, I was playing floorball, I was umpiring netball, I was playing beach volleyball. So whilst I was overweight, I was still really active. And I stopped doing a lot of those things. We moved in together, we started a life together. And things just snowballed into, you know, marriage, kids, working a lot, commuting, that sort of thing. And I just let go of myself.
You get comfortable within relationships too.
Yeah, become complacent to a degree. Like you almost like, you know, like I remember like when I have lost weight in the past, you know, you get skinny and you kind of feel like, oh, I'm going to be like very attractive to the opposite sex. And then like you get someone of the opposite sex and then you're kind of like, well, you know, they're here. So I don't really need to chase it, you know, and that's kind of...
I can't contribute it to like one thing, you know, but life gets busy, your priorities change, your activities change, and then suddenly you're like 50 kilos heavier. I mean, I'd always dabbled in using other weight loss tools to try and lose weight. I'd tried light and easy. I'd done, you know, keto, Atkins. I'd done all of these things, and I'd always sort of like lose 10 kilos, but then I'd gain like 15 afterwards. So it just, I wasn't able to maintain those lifestyles for very long.
But I guess that's also the scary part of maintenance because, you know, before you
It's
know
boring.
it, you get back into your
So
normal
boring.
routine of life and, you know, a few kilos will creep back on, but then it's kind of like, well, you're just falling back into the same old pattern, you know, life gets in the way, routines fall out of place, you know, something happens and then before you know it, like you've always got this fear in the back of your head, like, am I going to gain the 50 kilos again? Like,
Yeah, well, it is. It's like, it's where I've unfolded in the past. And I talked about this in a past episode where like I feel like I became addicted to losing weight because of the, you know, the validation you got from losing weight, you know, and that's why I've lost 50 kilos 5 times before I had surgery. And that's why I've lost the weight I have now. And like, you know, because I literally got addicted to the validation because no one goes, good on you. You haven't put on weight this week. You know what I mean? But like if you lose like 10 kilos, people are like,
if you were to gain weight again now, like not to that extreme, but if you were to gain weight again now and then you lost it again, you'd get no validation.
No, but I think that's what I love about like the social media side of things. As much as I hate so much about the social media side of things, like the kind of like keeping you accountable now. You know, because I know there's people out there that are kind of like batting for me to lose. Like, you know, like there's people out there that are probably like, I'd love to see you put on weight. And that kind of drives you to a degree, you know what I mean? Like it kind of like, you can't, as much as it doesn't like bury you in like emotion and like pressure, you kind of have that in the back of your head that like, I can't not succeed now. Because like there are people that I know probably would love for me not to succeed. So I think that's the big difference between past and present. Like 1 or 2 people knew I lost weight back in the day. These days, lots of people know that I've lost weight. So I can't put it back on and then try and lose it again because I'm not going to get the same validation like you just said. So I don't know.
You unpacked a lot just then, didn't you?
Did I just... I could wait more. I held back a lot. I wanted to lay down and get a therapy session, okay?
On the couch, get on the couch. So do you feel like though you've like since losing all the weight, you've been able to gain control of your life again and like lost a lot of your insecurities that you used to have about yourself prior to surgery?
Yeah, I definitely think that, you know, when food addiction and things like that give you a bit more space in your mind because they're suddenly gone, you start to put yourself first a little bit more and you can probably see things in a different light. Like, you know, I think when I was a lot bigger, like nobody would ever say anything to me like, oh, you need to lose weight. Like, yeah, maybe my close family and friends would encourage me to, but no one out on the street would really be approaching me with that sort of conversation. I guess there's other insecurities that do come along with being society's version of normal. You know, people seem to be more willing to talk about my weight in front of people, which is strange. You know, you would understand 3.5 years on, you know, this is just who I am now. But people who know me from before still feel like they need to talk about it. And in a public setting, that can be a little bit awkward when you're around people that don't know you from before. So I definitely think, my confidence has come a long way. I'm much more in touch with myself. I've definitely throughout this journey had periods where I've just put me first. And I've learned a lot from that. And I've not done a lot of that over my life, you know. So it's been good for me mentally as well as physically.
It's funny you put that question down actually, because I put a thing on my Instagram this week asking about like if someone came to you and asked about your insecurities, would you tell them what they are? Yeah. Like, would you tell people what your insecurities are, or do you feel like it's something you kind of hold a bit more closer?
No, I definitely think I'm more open, but I think it's probably because I've experienced both sides of the coin, right? So I can empathise with people who are overweight and have certain physical insecurities. But also the pressure that you feel of being an overweight person of society, not just out on the streets, but at work, in your family life, everything. Like there's lots of different perceptions of who you are as a person just based on your size. But I feel like I'm a bit of an open book in that space. I would encourage anyone to talk it out and get different viewpoints and different opinions to help you form a different one.
Do you feel like your insecurities have switched these days though? Like, do you feel like they're not the same insecurities you once had, obviously, because they've kind of grown with you?
Or
shrunk with you. But do you feel like they've switched from being so much about physical to kind of who you are, like, you know, not so much about like what you look like or, you know, what people perceive you as, but like more about you as a person?
Yeah, I think that a lot of my insecurities now are probably more workplace-based insecurities.
Yeah.
You know, I think I've got a good friendship group. I don't have that society pressure anymore. So my focus is more around, my career and my kids. You know, so does that mum at the park think that I'm a good mum, that sort of thing? Or, you know, am I performing in my job, that sort of thing? A lot of the physical insecurities that I have now are probably more just based around having to deal with a little bit more attention than I'd never had before. You know, the other day I left work and there were a bunch of young guys on a balcony at the apartment block across the road, and they're screaming out, "Oh, MILF, hey MILF," all this sort of stuff. And like, I've never experienced that before.
You don't? I get that most weeks. Like, every time I shut my front door, people are like, "You MILF," and I'm like, "I'm a DILF." Get it? No, I'm not a dad.
Well, you got dogs.
Yeah, I got dog. Yeah, nailed it. Yeah, you just really put my joke down, Lita. Okay.
Well, you could be a MILF, a male.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, anyway.
Totally.
Yep. What you were saying before, though, how you said that, like, it's really awkward sometimes when you're in, like, a public setting and, you know, your friends will bring up that you used to be, like, the person that you used to be, and then, like, if other people in the room didn't know who you were prior to, are you forthcoming in saying that you had surgery and how you lost the weight, or do you kind of, like, try and, like, dance around it a little bit?
No, I'm really open about it. I don't have the energy to invest in beating around the bush these days. So I'm very open, and I use it as an opportunity really to educate those people on what weight loss surgery is and help them understand the struggles that I have, you know, 3.5 years later, you know, trying to manage it, because I think people see weight loss surgery as, I'm going to be eating half a cup of food for the rest of my life. Like, that's just not the case. And I think, maintenance has been a real eye-opener for me and many people around me that had probably different ideas of what weight loss surgery was.
I think it's really good that people who are sort of like this far down the track, like the three of us, who have actually been able to like maintain the weight loss, is like a really good thing to be talking about, because like I think I said it a couple of weeks ago in the episode that like at the gym I had the conversation with somebody about like, oh, you know, I had weight loss surgery, and I've been getting quite a lot now. Oh wow, like, so I did know somebody who had it, but they regained all the weight. So they're kind of like, but they're like, oh no, but we see you at the gym all the time, and like you're putting in the effort and you're obviously doing the hard work in order to be able to maintain the loss from the surgery. So I think that's a way that we've got to almost kind of like educate people these days.
I think I take a different approach, to be honest, because like I'm more like
always got to argue
no,
with
but
me.
like I always take like the education. Like I never go like, oh, I'm so, you know, I'm doing well because I'm doing this and this and this. I take the approach of like someone has like something, and I've had it quite a bit actually lately, where people kind of opinionated about weight loss surgery, and I take the approach of wanting to educate them on it and make them understand that, like, you know, look beyond the weight to the person behind the weight, because that's the issue. Like people kind of go, you're fat because you like food. It's like, no, I'm overweight because I have had struggles in my life, or certain things that haven't gone like you, or, you know, my body doesn't do things in a certain way. And like, because I think that's the big issue with weight, is like people kind of just perceive like you're overweight, so you just eat too much and don't exercise.
Yeah, but I think that's what these people were saying. Like, you know, it's evident that you've been able to keep the weight off because you do come to the gym so often, and you do put the work behind it.
That's usually not the reason like people put on weight. It's usually because they have this unrealistic relationship with food. True. You know, like as much as like, you know, exercise plays a big part and so on and so forth, it's more dealing with like certain connections you have with food that help you long term, especially after bariatric surgery. And that's kind of like when I ever talk to someone about like weight loss surgery and they're kind of opinionated about it, I kind of go, well, you know, have you ever talked to someone who was overweight and had bariatric surgery? Have you ever had the conversation, or you just kind of say it behind their back and, you know, opinionated about it over there? You know, have the conversation, like understand it from their perspective, and you might change your mind, because I can be opinionated on a lot of stuff, but I'm not, because I like to have the conversation. Sorry, I'm not arguing with Lita, all right? I'm just kind of...
Are we about to have our first on-air fight? Like,
we both know that isn't
going to happen. Guys, let's have a group hug.
Yeah, literally. We're going to lay down. Can you deal with it? So being a mum, like full-time mum, like hats off to you, because that is like an amazing job. How is the 3 Fs going for you? Food, fitness, and family?
So I think this is one thing that I was really keen to talk about, because I think it's really important for people to understand and expect that this journey is forever, and it ebbs and flows like all the way to the end. In the beginning, you've got that like golden period of the 6 to 12 months where you're sort of settling back in, and it's more focused on what you can and can't eat, and you're trying to reestablish those behaviours, have good ones, get rid of the old ones, that sort of thing. And then after a year, maybe you start to get a little bit more hungry, or some of those bad habits, you realise, oh, yeah, I can eat a cheeseburger, or, whatever. So some of those old habits start to creep in. I took a period there, probably a year, where I really focused on myself, and I was at the gym 3 times a week doing weights and cardio. I was going to yoga 5 nights a week. My body was probably like the tightest that it has ever been. It was the most flexible it had ever been, and it felt amazing. But there were other things that were suffering, like I wasn't having family dinners anymore. My kids didn't want to eat different foods. Sorry, I've just got a little
puppy
doggy visitor here. So there was things in my family life that were suffering, and so I made a conscious decision at that stage to park the fitness side of it, because it just wasn't working out for me. Mine's the pun. And so I then refocused my energy on food. So I don't think you have to be everything all at once. You can't kill it in every aspect of your life, and you're going to, 1 year you might be able to make yourself that priority, and then the next you do have to give more to other people. And you've just got to find that balance. And Instagram is one of those things, like the weight loss community are really great in the support that they give you. And obviously I feel like I give a lot of support back to other people, and I learn from that. But it can also be this big comparison platform, and just really important to remember that this is your own journey, and, it's going to change, ebbs and flows, consistently changing. And you've just got to learn, use what you learn in that first 6 to 12 months post weight loss surgery to try and establish that into your life.
Very wise.
So much of what you just said, but then I resonate to.
It's funny because I had a thought, because obviously how I see things isn't always going to be how other people see things. But for me, what kind of has been my process is I've gone opposite ends, extremes. One extreme to the other extreme, all or nothing kind of thing. And then I've tried to find something in the middle. And that's kind of when you were talking about that, I'm like, yeah, no, you're right. You need to find that balance, but I think everyone finds that balance in their own way. And I think heading into it with the mentality of I'm just going to find balance straight out is kind of a really hard thing to do. I think you need to kind of play around and maybe go a bit extreme and then pull right back and then go, oh, this isn't working. And then you kind of try and find that happy medium in the middle. And for me, I was that's kind of how I've done it. And that's obviously not how everyone else is going to do it. But it's funny how that whole thing plays out. I think it's something everyone has to go through to find that balance, that magical word, which, is
but also
semi-unachievable.
Yeah. What works for you now, you won't be able to do your whole life because things change, and what your body needs and what you need mentally and physically, or what you need. If you need to be at home and spending time with your family, you can't then resent your family because they're taking away from your gym time. You've just got to always be willing to move and grow and learn through the process.
And food has always been a big thing for me. If any of you follow me, you would know that most of what I post is food.
Yeah, your feed makes me hungry.
Yeah, sorry guys, I get that a lot. But I want to show people that you can do this without killing yourself at the gym, because that's the perception, right? Is that going to the gym makes you healthy and it does all this stuff. We don't all have time for that. And especially me, I work full time. I commute 100 kilometres a day. I have 2 young kids that are in school. They do after school care. My husband works. They already sacrifice a lot. So for me, about using food to try and fuel myself properly. And I do still see a dietitian in line with I'm on like a 5-year support program with my surgical team. And they help me out. Like if I'm having a few months where I'm not going to be exercising, they help me cater my diet to that. So I don't think that, carbs are the enemy or sugar is the enemy or anything like that. You've just got to make it work for your lifestyle in that moment in time.
And yeah, it could look very different for everyone, really, because as much as I was sitting there, I'm like, I wonder, like, do you miss being flexible? Like, because obviously you were saying before, like when you were doing things, like, do you miss the way it feels? Because like fit is like what I love, like feeling that, like being able to run and not like feel like I'm walking is like, that's what I'm addicted to. Do you kind of miss that kind of side of things? Like I know like weight wise, you kind of where you're at and food and stuff, you feel good, but do you miss like that feeling of like, being able to put your feet behind your head and stuff? Like, yeah.
Does my husband miss that? Whilst I do miss it, like there's nothing more rewarding than sitting down with my kids at dinner time and they choose a piece of broccoli to eat rather than the chip on their plate. Like that is a bit of, pride or whatever that I get in that moment, that I'm like, this is temporary. So they're not going to be at the dinner table needing this food support for their whole life. Yeah. It's probably not long until one of them is going to be like, can I eat dinner in my room? Like she already does that and she's 6.5. So it's not far away.
With my boyfriend.
But for me, oh God, talk to your dad about that one. But yeah, like I say, ebbs and flows. This isn't forever. And when they're more confident with foods, like they're still learning, they're 6 and 4. So yeah, it's just that's important right now, and we'll get back into the gym when we're ready. I've still got my lunch breaks, so I can still go down to my work gym on my lunch breaks and do some steps. And that's the sacrifice at the moment. But yeah, I don't have the flexibility to be, running marathons and stuff at the moment, unfortunately. So,
but you are still you're doing what you can in the time that you've got that you're able to give, which I think is a big thing. You're not just, going, oh, well, I don't have time. I'm not going to, at least try and hit my 10,000 steps a day or whatever. Like just because you're not out there running marathons, you're still out there and you're still moving and you're still being active. It just might not be as active as what you used to be. And that's okay.
Yeah. And I'm making really conscious decisions to make better choices with what I can make choices with at the moment. I feel like I'm almost glad in a sense that I had weight loss surgery when I did, because I feel like I always had the kids and I always had this full-time job. And so I had to fit that into that lifestyle, and that's where I am now. I've had a bit of me time and now I'm back into family time, and our priorities will keep changing. But yeah, it's definitely frustrating when people online sort of say, oh, you're so lucky, or, oh, I wish I could do that. And you just sort of think, my meal plans that I do don't just arrive in the letterbox. Like I take time out of my personal time to sit and plan all of that out. And, because, I can't have that flexibility right now. So I make time to...
I'm not going to lie, like listening to like what you're saying, like the thought of what you do overwhelms me, because I'm not a food preparer person. Like I'm kind of, like I am not someone who can sit down and write out a food plan, because honestly, I get over the thought of food by the time I get to the end of the list. But like I'm a snatch grab. Would much rather find time to exercise than meal prep. And it's so like, not saying, for me, I'm kind of going, wow, I wish I could find what you have with the whole food side of things, because that's something I haven't been able to master as of yet.
It's funny because we had a conversation the other day with Ashley actually when she was here, and you were saying that you get over food before you've even eaten it if it takes too long to prepare.
Yeah.
So like you will literally just go for a tin of tuna because it's open it up, eat it, it's fuel. Yeah. It's, whereas.
But I never have like this overwhelming, like I don't crave a taste. Like where you might go like, oh, I'm just craving pasta or I'm craving this. I don't really ever have that. Like I just kind of crave food in general. Like I just need food. And that's like when we talk about the pill thing that we talked about before, where like I would happily take a nutrition pill, a pill that gives me everything I need because I don't crave flavor. Like I like flavor, but I don't crave flavor. Like I don't go, oh, tonight I'm going to have pasta because that's like, you know, I've been craving it all day. Like I don't
I'm
really
probably in a similar boat. Like I plan months ahead. Like I'm currently planned up until the end of May. So wow. I'm not basing my meal plans on what I'm craving that week. I sort of pick meals that are protein rich, that I know the family, that I might want to make it as a curry for me, but I can cook some meat on the side and the kids can just have meat and rice or, something like that. So I try and make meals that suit my preferences, being high protein, clean, high nutritional value meals that are family friendly in a sense. And I'm the same. Like I can't eat the same thing like for days on end. I say that, but my meal plan, like I literally have cheese and crackers every day and I eat the same breakfast all week. But I couldn't like make a dinner and then eat that dinner for the week. I couldn't prep in that way. So I always plan to make enough dinner for one lunch portion and then I move on to the next thing. Okay. And I really enjoy cooking. So, for me, it's a process that I enjoy doing, but I can understand if you don't enjoy cooking, then you would just look at the food that I eat and be like, no thanks.
I'm like a combination between the two because like
you are actually.
I plan my meals, but I can only plan for maybe 4 days ahead. So like yesterday I sat down and I only plan my dinners. Breakfast and lunch is sort of like just a free for all, whatever's in the fridge, whatever. But like I'll sit down and I'll plan 4 days in advance, but I can't plan any further than that because then I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to want to eat in 4 days time. Like I'll buy all this food. I do it all the time. I buy all the food and the fridge is stocked. And then I open the fridge on Thursday night and go, you know what? I really don't feel like eating anything that's in my fridge. So, I have I love food and I love to plan, but I can't plan too far out in advance because then I get bored of the idea of that's what I'm having for dinner on Friday. So I go, I don't want it anymore.
Yeah. Like if anyone's going to take anything away from this episode, it's just how complex we all are. Because there's always a little bit of me and I'm a little bit of Zoe, but then there's always a little bit of Lita and the Lita's a little bit of me, but actually not really much of me. We all got a little bit of like each other and like we're all very similar but very different. And I think that's what you need to take away from that is like, you need to find what works for you. Like, I feel like I found kind of a balance for me. Still working on it. You found a balance that works for you, and they're very different. It's like no one has the handbook to be like, this is bariatric surgery and what you need to do after. You just need to find what works for you.
I think the other thing that we need to point out in this episode as well is that maintenance isn't easy. Like, once you've sort of come out of that honeymoon period and you've lost the weight, it's not just kind of like sick. I've like hit my goal weight. Life's going to be easy from here on in.
It's like autopilot.
You always got something on. You've always got to think about I remember in my first initial consultation, my surgeon said to me, you'll never think about food again. Well, that was the biggest lie I've ever been told.
I call BS.
Yes, for a short period of time, I didn't think about food, and I definitely wasn't thinking that I was hungry or where I could get my next fix from. But in order to be successful in this journey, for me personally, like we were just saying, you've got to plan your meals. You've got to know your nutrition. You've got to be thinking about food so that you're not just...
I think it's just you've got to advance yourself.
Yeah.
Like you just can't go into it with the mentality of I'm going to be the same person with bariatric surgery and expect it to work for me. Like you need to advance yourself. You need to kind of look beyond of what you are because that is not working. Like I think that's the main thing from that is like we all have to evolve beyond what we were to become.
Yeah, that's funny because looking back at the beginning and like I do not want to downplay the way that anyone is feeling in those first 6 months because I've been there. But, you find it really tough because you're trying to learn that new full feeling and some foods make you feel really sick and nauseous and, you've got all of these things at play and you feel like in that moment, I just need to get through this and this is just a difficult part. But I sort of, in a way, wish that I was back there because I was really limited into what I could eat, not just in size, but in the variety as well because certain things were triggering that nausea and just that uncomfortable feeling. Whereas now I feel like I am where I was prior to surgery and that I have full range of what I can eat. I can eat every half an hour if I wanted to. So if I do sit down for a cheat meal, which I don't agree with that terminology, but you know what I mean, like a food that is outside of my standard pattern. And I'm really, really enjoying it. I could just pause for half an hour and then I could go back to it, you know? So it's making that decision not to do that. And also removing that concept for me of like treat food and bad food and that sort of thing. Like it's just food. And if you fuel yourself correctly, then it doesn't matter what you're eating. It doesn't matter if you have that Snickers ice cream tonight because you know that that's not in your normal routine of eating. So I think I'm going to have a Snickers ice cream tonight. But, you know, like I don't punish myself the way that I used to because I have those foods because that's just part of my maintenance life. Yeah. And I know I really strongly believe in 80-20. You know, I only meal plan Monday to Friday. I don't have any plans for the weekends and I don't restrict myself or limit myself. The weekend is, you know, whatever is on the table. So, yeah, I'm really, like, comfortable in my food journey as part of it. And, yeah, I need to learn how to drink more still 3.5 years later, and I need to prioritise exercise when I get the time.
Yeah. I'm honestly like, you stop talking and then I kind of go, oh, that's right. We're like actually having a podcast with you because like I get kind of lost in what you're saying because I'm like, you have some very good points. Yeah. Like you have some very good like views on how you're doing your process. And some of them are very different to mine. But I'm taking a lot away from what you're saying. And I almost go like, oh, that's right. I need to ask her another question. You
better be taking notes.
Yeah, that's it. I will take notes when I edit it. Next question. What is next for you?
Oh, gee.
That like took me back to our first episode. It's the question number one.
Question number 363.
Yeah. You know what? I don't really know what is next for me. I've actually, in my personal life, like I've just started a new job. We're doing a lot of renovations to our house. You know, we're living through this pandemic from a Western Australian perspective. We've only just got out of our little bubble. So, you know, COVID for me right now is on my front door. I'm getting texts from the school every day saying that they're getting positive cases. So I should start a poll, like, when am I going to get it? Because I've got 2 kids in 2 different schools, so it's coming for me. But, yeah, I don't know what is next for me. I would love to, from a personal aspect, like, sell up and live in our caravan. That's probably not going to happen, but, you know, we get away as much as we can.
Let's just start a caravan life.
Yeah, everyone, let's get caravans and just travel around and be gypsies. It'll be amazing.
Oh, absolutely. I would love that. Like, my kids thrive in that environment. Imagine all of the walks that you would get to do out in nature. Like, it would just be incredible.
Chloe, stop selling it to me. I'm already sold. All right.
You look like entered a competition today to try and win a van.
I did enter a competition today to try and win a van.
Well, good luck because it will be amazing if you could do that.
I can't wait. I will win. You know, but like honestly, like I don't know if this is like I sometimes like think of a question in my head and I go, is this too direct of a question to ask?
Jesus,
but like no, I just want to know, like, are you happy with where you're at? Like, are you happy with like where you are at in this process, in this journey, how it's gone? Like the way it's heading, like are you genuinely happy with how it's heading?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I did have some complications on the way through there with severe reflux, and I've had that resolved in October last year. I did have a hernia and some other issues, nothing to do really with the sleeve, but getting that resolved was a life changer because now I can actually enjoy eating and drinking again. But yeah, I wouldn't change anything. And I think one of the questions that you guys gave me before doing this was more around, do you have any regrets? And as cliche as it is to say, oh, I wish I got it sooner. Like, in a sense, I feel like, you know, there's never a right time to do it. The time that I did do it has worked perfectly into my life. But then I sometimes think, oh, well, what would have my life been like if I did this when I was like 18 and already experiencing like obesity? Would have things been different? But, you know, I look at my journey and I think I've never compared it to anyone else's. I've always applied, everyone else's really positive experience to how it can work for me. I've learned what not to do from some people as well, So I don't know, maybe if I did this 10 years ago, I wouldn't have had the same sort of wisdom or maturity that I have now to be able to be as successful. But yeah, I'm really, really happy with how it's all gone and who I've met and, how my life has changed.
Yeah. Because you and your your husband, I'm assuming husband, have been together for quite a while, hey? Mm-hmm. So a question I have for you, because a statistic that kind of baffles a lot of people is the whole separation after weight loss surgery one. Can you give me kind of an answer of what has helped you to get through this? Because a lot don't.
Yeah. So I guess I'm in a unique situation. My husband actually had the surgery 6 months after me. But I can tell you that first 6 months, when it was just me on that journey alone, it was so strange. I noticed all of these changes to my body, and he lives with me every day. So, he didn't really notice the rapid weight loss. When we looked back at photos, I was like, holy crap, I didn't realize that you were that big. And so he didn't see the physical changes the way that I saw them. And so that was difficult, because I was saying to him, geez, I thought you'd be all over me like a rash, this new toy to play with. But he almost seemed hesitant to approach me in that regard. So we were definitely going down two different mental paths on what was going on. And we're lucky, obviously he had the surgery and he started to experience that as well. But we do have a very open communication within each other. So we can talk about those issues. And dare I say, the relationships that end after weight loss surgery aren't because of weight loss surgery. There's been more there in the build-up. And like you were asking me in the beginning, about my insecurities, that all changes.
Yeah.
So suddenly you've dropped all of those insecurities and you're empowered. Yeah. You might not want to stay in a relationship that wasn't
empowering,
treating you right, and making you feel all the things that it should. So,
no, I think that's 100%. It's one of those things. As much as people sit there and they go, you losing weight. When you were talking about you losing weight and your partner kind of looking from the sidelines, as much as I'm he wouldn't have, as much as he probably looked at you and went, God, you're looking really good. It almost would have played into his insecurities, at the time.
Oh, absolutely.
He would have looked at you and been like, wow, she's doing really well. And, he hadn't had surgery at that point and, he was still where he is. And he's like, is she going to get to a point? You could understand from his perspective, he might have thought maybe you were heading away from him,
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
There's all those things that play a part. As much as you want to sit there and go, oh, I'm growing and da-da-da, he needs to appreciate that. We all kind of have our own individual little minds.
Also kind of as well though, if you're two people who have been doing the same thing for so long, then all of a sudden one person's life changes dramatically, but then the other person's life is still exactly the same, but they're now living with somebody who has had a dramatic life change. I know that when I was with my ex, I was kind of XYZ has happened today, and I would want him to get excited for me, but he was just kind of well, I'm not excited for you because it didn't actually it didn't play any part in my life. So my life hasn't changed. I still wake up in the morning, go to work, come home. He didn't need to celebrate all my little wins because they were my little wins.
You do, but you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's definitely, you see a lot in the online community, the relationship breakdowns. But one thing that probably doesn't get talked about as much is the friendship breakdowns and what that does, because suddenly you don't want to go out and have dinners out every weekend and you don't want to do all that sort of thing. And I hate the term, I say, relevant friends, but one thing that I've found really important through this journey is meeting new people that are into the same things that I'm into and can support me, because I've met some amazing people via Instagram and just within the Perth weight loss community and, everywhere else. We've connected prior to this conversation tonight. And and I'm going to get over there one day. You just wait and see.
Once you get your international passport.
Yeah.
But, so it is part of the journey, we say that all the time, but you know,
I'm a fan of that word, just FYI.
friendship.
Some people hate that word. I like that word. Journey. It's a journey. Continue.
Yeah. And yeah, you know, my good friends that I've had all my life, they're always going to be there, but they don't want to hear me talk about this stuff all the time. So it has been really important for me to find people that are on the same path as me. And yeah, some of those people will be forever friends now, and that's, you know, I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah. No, it is, because it's like something you both mutually find like entertaining to talk about. It's so important to find that. Otherwise you just feel like you sit in your own little bubble, and it's not as, because like I know I've been motivated so much by others being motivated for the same subject matter. You know, I think it's really important, like, you know, if you kind of sit there and you don't get that satisfaction through the little wins and the little victories, it kind of takes the emphasis away from it. And I think that's what drives it the first year or two after bariatric surgery, is like having those people you can bounce off and like get excited about those little wins. I think it's really important. So
yeah, like Stuart doesn't care that I can now go and buy like clothes from Jacuba off the rack, you know, but my girlfriends that have experienced...
What was Jacuba?
Do you not have Jacuba?
Yeah, we do. He just doesn't know about it.
I was like, are you saying
Sorry,
anaconda?
Sam, I'm just going to block you out. So, Lisa, you understand, right? Like,
I have been wondering how to pronounce that brand for a very long time, because I've never actually heard anyone say it out loud. So thank you for clarifying that.
Jacuba.
But I do completely understand the point of that.
Like being able to buy something off the rack is time saving, money saving, life saving. Like, my husband doesn't care about that. And my girlfriends that I've known for 30 years are like, oh, but we do that anyway. So to be able to find someone that can, you know, enjoy that as well, like it's important. It's an important part of it.
Yeah, 100%.
Otherwise, you just feel like you're a bit up yourself, you know, because you're like wanting to celebrate all these things, but nobody really cares. And you're like, am I?
They're like, yeah, well, we've been doing that for like 30 years, so like get with the program. Come on.
What would be your top tip? Like, if you could give one for someone starting out or someone a year in, like, do you have a top tip for bariatric surgery?
Top tip for me, and obviously we've learned through this conversation tonight that we're all very different in what we prioritise in our journey. But for me, it would be learn to love and cook from home. Because it's really, really easy once that restriction eases a little bit, to revert back to those old food behaviours. And so if you can learn how to do that in the beginning, when you don't have all those demons in your head, when they've been switched off for that period, I think that will really change your journey, because, when you're in maintenance, you can really do anything.
You really can.
You really can.
And food's like half price. You're going to eat half of it. So you can kind of be a bit, So you just need to get careful of that.
Just find yourself a bariatric patient partner.
No, patient. Literally, go to the ward, sit in the ward, and be like, are you getting cut open and getting your stomach taken out? Okay, let's hang out. Let's go.
We can be friends.
Yeah, I'm taking you home. Can I just say that I really enjoyed that episode with you. I think a lot of people take a lot of great information away from what you said, because it's been a very different approach to this situation, because you've overly admitted, like, you did the whole exercise thing and but then you took the opposite thing and you kind of focused on food. It's like, you know, I kind of was thinking about this the other day, like, it's not very often you hear someone who like takes the food approach and is super successful, and you've been super successful, and I think because you've found like inner victories within that. Like, you found, like, you know, teaching your kids about nutrition and stuff like that has been super, like, important to you. And I think that's been, like, your little inner win. Like, as much as people have NSVs, I think you being a present mother and kind of teaching them things you wish you knew has been, like, a huge driving factor for you. And I think that's, like, a really important thing people take away. You know, not everyone's going to be like, oh, run a marathon, be able to tie my shoes. But, like, you know, we all have those little wins that, like, will resonate to us. So I've
and like Lita alluded to earlier, you know, I'm not just, whilst I'm not taking something from what everyone else is doing, I'm doing what works for me. And, you know, comparison is the joy thief. So whilst I can't
this week,
whilst I cannot prioritize the exercise right now, that doesn't give me an excuse. You know, I still have to focus my energy into something that does work for me.
Yeah.
Well, I think people from all different parts of their journey will get something out of this episode, whether or not you're listening to it for
I think I almost want to put it like a thing at the start of this episode, be like, open your ears and listen, like really listen, because it'd be very easy to like kind of go over the top of a lot of the information and not resonate or like not take it on board. But a lot of what you said resonated with me as information I would have liked to hear earlier on, especially when it comes like, comparison and stuff like that. Like I think that would have been something very beneficial for myself. So yeah, guys, I'll crop this in earlier. Not really. I'll leave it here. But either way, re-listen to the episode and really listen to it and take it all in, because I think there's a lot of great information in this one. So I can't believe it's taken this long to get you on, 82 episodes, but I'm very, very glad we finally got you on. And when you get that international passport, to travel from WA to Queensland, we would love...
stamp.
Yeah, when you get the stamp, we would love to have you over here. And keep doing what you're doing. Like keep kind of like sharing all your stuff and talking to people, because I feel like you have a very beneficial view on this process that could help a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think, from that community space and from the Instagram space, one thing that I've always done from the beginning is what I post is for me. And, I'm really, really grateful when people reach out and say, oh, you've helped me with this, or, that's great. But I've done that for me, and it helps keep me accountable and helps keep me on my journey. And yeah, I think that's why I've created, some really good relationships through the space, because I've just been doing me.
Yeah.
Just doing it for you.
Yeah. But saying that, if you do want to, someone does want to reach out to you.
Keep on stealing all my lines tonight.
Yeah. No, it's like I read them. If someone wants to reach out to you and like ask those questions that you may not share on stories or posts or whatever, where's the best place to kind of contact you?
So I am on Instagram. I am Ms. Subtle _VSG. My DMs are always open. I often voice message back because it's just easier for me in my chaos. So be open to that. But otherwise, yeah, I love to talk about stuff in this space, and I love to see people succeed. And, I keep saying don't compare yourself. And that's one thing I try and never give out any advice where I think somebody might take that and use it in their own situation. Yeah. But more about, lessons learned and how you can apply certain things to, what works for you.
Oh my God, you're like a wise Yoda.
Yeah.
You're so wise. Like, honestly, listening to you, I'm like, God, you talk so well. I feel like, yeah. Anyway.
Shannon,
maybe I need to start.
The way you talk, I'm like, have you done
video thing?
Yeah, have you done public speaking or something? Like, because you talk so well.
You know what it is? It is COVID life, right? All my meetings are done online 100% of the time. So I think my brain has learnt this way of communication.
Oh. Well,
in a room full of people, you're like, I don't know what to do. But now, like, behind a computer screen, you're like, I can talk for ages.
Well, when you reached out to me, the first thing I was like, talking, on the spot, I can't do that. But obviously I can. You've taught me something.
You can do it really well.
Anyway, we'll end this episode and then I'll blow your rig up a little bit more because, I feel like we need to appreciate it. But guys, if you have any questions, reach out to Zoe. If you want to find her on Instagram, if you want to reach out to us, I feel like reach out to her because she has really good information. But either way, if you want to reach out to us, find us on Instagram, Patreon, whatever it is. And yeah, guys, that is another episode of Bari
Banter.
Nice. Well, yes, that is another episode of Bari Banter in the books. We hope you got a little something from that one.
Head on over to Facebook or Instagram and check us out, or go to baribanter.com where you can watch past episodes, give us feedback, and let us know who you want to hear from next.
We love you all, and as always, please stay beautiful.